Hey up, right, I'm going to try to keep today's video as short and sweet as possible. I've got two big filming projects starting this week, and I mean the weather's been mayhem this week. It looks set to continue next week as well. We've had back-to-back thunderstorms. It's just been horrendous, so I need to keep this short so I can get on with the pre-production for these other two projects. Now, last week I published a video about whether or not people think that Royal Enfield is becoming just another lifestyle brand. You know, the prices are rising, yet the quality is not moving up with it, nor is the customer support. Now, I did get a little bit of flack on this subject from a few people, and I just want to explain. You know, I'm a huge Royal Enfield fan. I love the Royal Enfield motorcycles. I'm a little bit uneasy, though, about the direction that Royal Enfield is heading in. And at the end of the day, I don't work for Royal Enfield. I don't work for any manufacturer. I actually work for you. It's my job to sort of find hidden truths and present them to you so that you're well informed with your purchasing decisions. I'm not bashing Royal Enfield. I'm just not part of that influencer culture that only tells you the bits that they think the manufacturer would want them to tell you. I don't want Royal Enfield to fail, I want them to succeed, but there's no motivation for them to change the way that they're doing things if everybody just refuses to talk about it. And it seems that that really resonated with a lot of viewers. Now, last time I looked, I think it had around about 500 comments, which is pretty good. And most of those comments shared the same sentiment. Now, there's a feature on YouTube Studio, which is what I use for sort of putting these videos up. It's been around for a while. I only started using it recently. That allows you to analyse your videos, see what's working and what isn't working. And it does actually analyse all the comments as well. And one thing that it picked up, well, there were two subjects that it picked up on, that it thought undermined my credibility, and it said, you know, what I really need to do is make a video sort of putting the facts right on these two things. So that's what I'm going to do today. Now, the first one was the amount of pre-registered Royal Enfield motorcycles that are available at the moment, have been available really since the beginning of last year. Well, actually December 2024 I think it started, whereby you know, it's something that the motor trade does in general. They will register motor vehicles. Usually they do this to hit sales targets in certain months of the year, but also it's common practice to do this when a new Euro emissions standard comes out. Now, the law actually does allow them up to a year after the cut-off date to move these vehicles on. But for some reason in December 2024, Royal Enfield, I don't know the exact numbers, but there were a lot. Royal Enfield pre-registered a lot of motorcycles worldwide. Now, devil's advocate, they also reported the best sales year today. I don't know whether that's a coincidence or whether those two things are tied together, but there still seems to be a lot of these bikes available. Now, we moved from Euro 5 to Euro 5 Plus, and a lot of these vehicles that have been sold pre-registered are Euro 5, and a lot of people pointed out to me that, you know, in the case of bikes like the Interceptor, you're seeing discounts of up to £1,500, in some cases £2,000, which makes these a bit of a bargain and explodes the position that I had, that these bikes are getting too expensive at £7,099, which is the current recommended retail price. On the face of it, yeah, that would seem to be the case, but there's a lot of things, you know, like, it's just human nature, I suppose. All they see is the bottom line and the fact that it's a bike with 0 miles on it, and that makes it an absolute bargain. The first question you have to ask yourself is, why are there so many pre-registered bikes available from Royal Enfield? I mean, all manufacturers do it, But this seems to have been an ongoing thing. I know MotoGP has been blamed for it, but it's not just MotoGP that's done it. You can't pile all the blame on them. Now, what you've got to remember with these bikes is, yes, technically it's a brand new motorcycle, but when it's pre-registered, you are buying it as a used motorcycle. And when that bike is registered in the dealer's name as a demonstrator or a courtesy bike, or I'm not sure how they do it, the clock starts ticking on your warranty immediately. So when you buy that bike, if that's been sitting in a storeroom or on the dealership's showroom floor for 6 months or a year, you've automatically lost that period of time from your warranty. Now, I know in some cases dealerships will top that warranty up, but you're losing. What you've got to remember is these people are cutting out a huge amount of profit from the sale of that bike when they pre-register, so they haven't got as much profit to play with when it comes to warranty claims, which means they might not be quite as motivated to honour warranty claims when when the fullness of time has sort of elapsed on that warranty from when it was registered. A lot of these people do say that they will honour warranty for a 3-year period from the time that you buy the bike, but a verbal agreement is worth nothing. Make sure that you get something in writing if you're going to go down that route. The other thing is, technically you're buying a used motorcycle, so the Consumer Rights Act doesn't treat you in quite the same way. You don't have quite as many rights. That's another thing that you need to take into account with these bikes. Technically you're buying a used product, so your rights are not the same under the Consumer Rights Act as they are if you're buying new. And one big argument that the retailer has in a situation like that is that you bought that bike at a huge discount. That's a big sort of marker in his favour if there are any sort of court claims coming in over some conflict or argument over the quality or the performance of the bike going forward. So remember that. On the surface these seem like absolute bargains. If you get a good bike, it's probably never going to be a problem, but as we discussed in that video, quality control is a little bit hit and miss with Royal Enfields. If you get a bad one, you could blow your brains out. It might not be quite the bargain that you thought it was. Now, second and final point, the service schedule for the Royal Enfield 650 models. I mentioned in that video that Royal Enfield has cut the service interval by approximately 1,400 miles. They've cut it down to 4,660 miles between services. Now, I got quite a lot of comments saying, no, Stuart, you've got this totally wrong. Actually, they've extended the service intervals because originally the service intervals were every 3,000 miles. Now, I bought a 2019 Interceptor. I don't have the handbook now, but I know for a fact that the service intervals were every 6,000 miles. At 3,000 miles, there was a check that was required to be carried out. It was not a service, it was simply an inspection. Now, I clarified this because at the time, a certain influencer read the manual out on camera, and it's an easy mistake to make. He saw the 3,000 miles and decided that there was a service required every 3,000 miles. Unfortunately, he didn't read the actual column that corresponded to that 3,000 mile checkpoint. And I've actually managed to get a viewer to take some photographs of a 2020 manual that shows that service interval here. If you look at it carefully, you'll see that when it comes to an oil change, it's blank because no oil change is required. When it comes to oil filter, it's blank because no oil filter replacement is required. And when it comes to looking at the tappets, it's blank because there's no tappet check required. The service intervals were every 6,000 miles with a checkup at 3,000 miles. It was not a service. Now, where the confusion comes in is a certain influencer back in 2019 read this manual out and he didn't spot that. He simply sort of registered in his head that it was a service every 3,000 miles. I think he later corrected it, but unfortunately, once he'd done that, the rumour mill has started, and this is something that's been perpetuated for 7 years. I believe I made a video round about 2019, 2020 clarifying this, because I actually checked this out with MotoGB, and I actually fell foul of this myself. Originally, I was going to buy my Interceptor from a particular dealership which is now closed down, and I had this same argument with them when we were discussing service schedules, and he insisted that they had to do a service every 3,000 miles. Now, it wouldn't let me look at the manual, but I'd already had sight of it because I'd downloaded a copy at the time, so I knew exactly what I was talking about. And it seemed to me that he was looking for an opportunity to sort of double his money with the servicing on that bike, and I decided at that point I wasn't going to buy a bike from him, even though I'd actually put an order in for it. I cancelled the order and bought it from somewhere else. And it does seem that some dealerships have taken advantage of owners' ignorance on this subject over the years in insisting or carrying out unnecessary services. Now, like I said, this has perpetuated a myth which has just registered in people's brains, and I had several comments telling me that the information that I'd given was incorrect, and that actually they've extended it from 3,000 miles to 4,660 miles. They haven't at all. They've reduced it from 6,000 miles to 4,400, whatever it is. They've actually reduced the service intervals. Now, the reasons for this, I think, this probably came in at the beginning of 2025. Again, when Euro 5 Plus emission standards came into play, they probably had to make some alterations to the engine, which I guess affected the temperature that the engine runs at, which means that they've had to reduce the service interval so that the engines don't suffer any damage, with those previously 6,000 mile services. At the end of the day, the 650cc oil air cooled engine is an antiquated concept when it was originally designed, because everybody wanted air cooled bikes. It's very difficult to make an air cooled bike compliant with emissions, especially the emission standards that we have now. And the problem is there's probably no way they could have envisaged at the time, bearing in mind this design probably started getting on for 10 years ago, because it takes years to develop an engine before you've actually got something you can produce. They would have had no way of envisaging that these emission standards were going to come in. And I think this is probably the reason that we've had spy shots of a 750 version. They're probably having to expand the cubic capacity of that engine in order to get round the problems that Euro 5 Plus is causing, so that they can maybe, hopefully, return them to 6,000 mile intervals. I don't think that is going to be a performance upgrade by any stretch of the imagination. I think that is the way that they're going to sell it. They'll probably add a little bit more torque and a couple more horsepower, but I think the main reason for that is to mitigate the safety of the engine against the new Euro 5 Plus emissions tests. And judging by the length of time they've been working on that, it seems like they're having difficulties achieving it. But I think that is the reason for it. I think this change to the 650 engine's service schedule was probably brought in at the beginning of January last year, 2025. That will be the reason for it. Now, that's it. I'm not going to bore you anymore with this. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and my other videos, and in doing so helping to support this channel. I really do appreciate it. Leave a like, hype this video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. You can help me out in other ways through my Patreon page, PayPal donations, details of which are in the video description down below, or you can use the super thanks button. I hope the weather holds out for you this weekend. I hope it does, because I've got a lot of work to do. So ride safely, and I'll see you soon.